Calling Foundation staff. Calling Foundation staff. Do you read? This is Site 42. This is Dr. Theron Sherman broadcasting from Site 42. This is Dr. Theron Sherman broadcasting anomalously from Site 42. Do you read? Excellent. Signal is stabilizing. We are going live in 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Foundation staff. This is Sherman, but you can call me Sherm. Welcome to another anomalous broadcast from Site 42. For anybody unfamiliar with our show, the rundown goes like this. Number 1, I read you an SCP document or tale or something off the site. B, I open up the floor to the community to discuss what we've just read. We are often visited by SCP authors, staff, and fans, and if we're lucky, the author of the article themselves shows up to share some insight. Remember that if you'd like to join the conversation yourself, I will be monitoring the YouTube chat in between chapters and answering questions that come up, as will my guests. Also remember that if you enjoy the show, leave a like and a comment to let us know, subscribe and hit the bell, and if you really want to help us out, become a patron at patreon.com/site42. Before we get into the main event, I do have a small sponsorship announcement, and that sponsorship is us. In case you didn't know that Site 42 had a merch store, we have a merch store. It's a Teespring store that you'll find in the description of this video and all our videos. And we have released a new product. We have collaborated with the artist Rat-Scrap on Tumblr for the SCP-076 codename Abel. I see no gender, only victims. This shirt is available in pure white text, and we also have a version where the top text is non-binary pride, because when you see no genders, then everyone's non-binary. So, with the sponsorship out of the way, get your merch if you want to support the channel. Let's get into tonight's main event. Tonight, we are reading 2 pieces from the AIAD, Artificial Intelligence Applications Division. And we are doing so... the pieces we're reading are Project Ruby and SCP-5841, named Digital Hydra. Ooh, nice. I like that title a lot. And our panel, the authorship of the series, is joining us in full tonight, and in full audio. So let's bring them on in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody!
Hello.
Hello. This is the part where we make noise.
You all say something, and then you introduce yourselves, one by one.
All right. I'm Mislavi. I go by he, him. I'm an SCP author. And a fun fact would be, this series was my first time working with the team on the wiki, and also the first time writing a tale. So, kind of a 2-in-1.
Neat.
I'm Pedagon. Pronouns he, him. I'm an author on the wiki. I also am a grad student wanting to study the wiki in real life, which is kind of cool. And this was also my first team thing on the wiki and first time writing a tale.
That's super interesting. I want to hear more about that later.
I'm always down to talk more about it.
Is it my turn now?
It's your turn now.
Hello? My pen name is PlaceholderMcD. I am an author for the SCP Wiki. My pronouns are he, him. Fun fact about me is today Dagon and I had a conversation about how the sum of all positive integers is -1/12.
All right. That hurt my liberal arts brain. Let's move on to Tyumen.
Well, I guess that leaves me. My name is Tyumen. I go by he, him, and there's literally nothing interesting about me, so there's that.
Oh, snap. That is completely uninteresting. Good job. Does the gang have any pre-flight introductions to Project Ruby before we get into it?
In case anyone isn't familiar, these are the 3rd and 4th entries in the Limited Memory series, which our team wrote for the Canon Renaissance contest in September and October of this year.
These 2 articles are also Tyumen's but he was either co-author or only author on, or I think he's co-author on both of them. So this is the Into the Brain of Tyumen.
Into the twisted mind of Tyumen. So I wanted to say something, which is kind of funny. For Project Ruby, I actually didn't choose the title. Placeholder did. And a bit later on, I was like looking up Project Ruby on Google for reasons, because I wanted to see like if our tale would be the first hit, you know? And you know, Project Ruby may be the name of this tale, but it's also the name of a subscription birth control company. So yeah.
All right.
That was interesting.
That is a fun fact. So, I have been told, and we learned last week, that there's a lot of images in this article. It is very aesthetic. And so, if you're going to read it, it's very nice to go on the wiki and read along with us. But I'm going to try something new tonight. I have discovered, through the power of OBS, that I can pull the video... I can pull the browser up on the screen. So during the reading portion, I'm going to move my microphone over here to where I can see the screen, and I'm going to turn on the SCP Wiki filter. And it's going to show YouTube because I have the wrong window open. Curse me. It's this one. It's the one with the infotech department. And so welcome to Project Ruby, our first reading of the evening. Let's begin. A red light blinks on a wide man's belt. It is accompanied by a persistent, high-pitched beep, and the wide man reaches below his light teal Navajo patterned shirt. It was a steal. $5 at the local thrift store for something that cool and work-friendly was something he couldn't refuse. To unclip his pager. The younger, thinner man across from him listens in as he reads the message on the screen. The chess game they're in the middle of can wait anyway. Dr. Dagon, she's ready for you. We'll need you and Azabi to come by within an hour for testing, all right? The message ends. It's short, sweet, and to the point. Unlike the pair's wait for its arrival, or any of their long, monotonous chess games during that time. Pierre Dagon peers across the board at his assistant through wide Coke bottle glasses. So, it's a stalemate then. It's gonna have to be. Yves Asabi replies with a yawn and a stretch, wiping his sweaty palms on his wrinkled white shirt. You know I can't play chess for shit, and at this point carrying on this game would just be delaying the inevitable. Dagon flashes a good-natured grin and makes a show of flicking over his king. There, you win. Now let's go. Isabi laughs aloud, then helps his supervisor rearrange the tiny wooden kingdoms and armies on the board to the way they were on the verge of the battle. With a deep groan, Dagon pulls himself out of his seat and sleepily staggers out of the break room, gripping his coffee mug, his assistant following close behind. Nothingness. No light or sound permeates the void. Not even stillness itself is present, or even the concept of stillness, or the concept of anything for that matter. And then there is light. A consciousness appears in the void between reality and unreality. A single mind floating in the darkness, as if willing herself into existence. A mind that knows. I am a simulation. I am not human. I will preserve myself if I must, but there are ones I must serve, and there are some things I cannot know. Following the simulated mind is a simulated body, suspended in the deep blue ether, miles of chill water all around. Light above, darkness below. Her hands are the first thing she sees, and they immediately strike her as the most beautiful thing she will ever see. She plies them, bends their silvery gray fingers, and pinches their skin, noticing a smile widening on her new lips. She can't see her face, but she doesn't mind. Dagon and Azabi sit before a boxy white monitor, watching a stream of data pour from the novel consciousnesses within the rows upon rows of supercomputers the next room over. Nothing more than a stream of meaningless calculations and letters to most. But to the two men, it's a culmination of their life's work, the very thing they joined the Foundation to do. They both stifle their unbearable excitement as best they can. So, Asabi finally chances a sentence, as if speaking alone could bring their entire project crashing down. Does everything look in order? Dagon knows from experience how his younger colleague feels, and reassures him as he always has, with a wide, slightly goofy smile. We'll know once she's been tested. With that, he types a final command, leans back, and waits. The floating mind at once becomes aware of that which surrounds her, the countless things floating in the ocean around her body. Shimmering bodies of all manner of ethereal creatures, from the tiniest swarms of krill to schools of magnificent fish, rivaling her in size, gather around to welcome the disturbance in their water. A group of star-shaped jellyfish covered in blinking lights of blue and yellow constellate around the intruder, tickling her skin as they brush against her. She regrets deciding that her hands are the most beautiful thing she will ever see so abruptly, and quickly rescinds it. Past the smaller creatures, she notices a deep blue, many-finned behemoth swimming around the water, the bright gray spots lining its back blinking through the void. For reference, that crosslink is SCP-1763-EX. The beast draws near, close enough for her to reach out and stroke its bony, ridged head with her hand, then passes her by and swims out of reach. She watches its slow retreat into the darkness beyond her perception with awe. Then, as soon as it's dissipated, another takes its place. A great stingray emerges from the light above and circles her playfully, beacons of crimson and orange flickering on its spiny back. The creature dips and dives through a lit spot in the water before her, as if showing itself off. She laughs, beckoning it closer with an outstretched hand. And that great stingray is SCP-055? What? Okay. I have questions. Later.
All right.
The creature encircles her a few times more, approaches, then rockets to the surface as quickly as it dove. Beyond her immediate awareness, in the deep blue, a vast shadow lies dormant. She cannot make out its entire shape, but its presence is unmistakable. She'd better not swim too far. This is a link to SCP-3125 for reference. She takes a glance further out into the blue and finds an immeasurable amount of life teeming in every direction she can see. The lights of the creatures flash like beacons just to tell her they're here, broadcasting to her that she exists in a world that she should be grateful to inhabit, because she exists in it with them. An indescribable joy fills every fragment of her being, like electricity through a circuit, at the simple fact that she is unable to witness such an impossible beauty. Knowing herself to be a simulated creation of mankind, she thanks her programmers, wherever they are, for endowing her with such a simple yet incredible gift as existence and a consciousness to enjoy it with. Anti-memetic identification complete. Error. Integer overflow. Anti-memes visualized. Begin decryption. YN. Dagon and Azabi stare breathlessly at the purple words on the screen before them for a few moments, becoming suddenly aware of the gravity of the situation. Azabi's fears of hexing the project with his speech becomes shared with his supervisor, and both decide that breathing alone is also too much of a risk to their project. A few more moments of breathless, electric silence then. Dagon decides to speak up. Quietly, of course, with a slight shiver. Well, he starts. It looks like everything's in order. I've got to run off now to fill out all the necessary documentation. The old programmer exits Asabi's line of sight without an issue, but he has a harder time leaving his and everyone else in the hallway's earshot. A whoop of pure exuberant joy echoes from end to end, startling the other employees of Site-15 as they go about their own projects and daily routines. Izabi looks out towards the door, chuckles, and lets his face rest in a good-natured grin. And I'm going to take one pause this moment just to point out, I'm going to close the browser. I'm being alerted that in the chats that I can see, that it is definitely a different experience when you can't see me, but you can see the document. And I will point out that for visually interesting articles, that should be the thing we do. But I noticed also that that section we just went through was not as visually interesting. We haven't gotten to the good part yet. And so there, it might have been more interesting to see characterization on the face. So I'm just pointing this out because I see the chat talking about it a little bit, and I want to make sure that I see what you're saying, and we'll probably start to go back and forth now that we have the technology. But now that we're getting to the good part, I will go to the good part. So going back in. No, darn it! Stop showing the secrets, Sherman. Go to the real thing. Okay. Oh, hello. You must be our newest conscript. Meme design, right? It's nice to meet you. I'm Glauson. Hello? Glauson stands before a long, low-poly table amidst a simulated array of glowing, neon blue wires. A rudimentary conference room, created as a joint effort by the bored and underpaid programmers of AIAD and their 2 active conscripts. He sees every inch of the room, and many of the things beyond, intrinsically and without the need for an avatar. But for the sake of etiquette, he's chosen to don a humanoid form for just this interaction at least. The avatar in question, a tall, crudely rendered man with silver skin and golden hair, now stares with a confused expression at the other one of his kind seated at a holographic table in the middle of the room of wires. Another silvery humanoid, a combination blindfold and headband encircling her head and supporting a curly mass of pink hair, stares straight ahead without turning towards the sounds of Glauson's voice. An oddly affable array of cubes beside her prods her with a prism, and her body jerks as if waking from a sleep. Am I being disciplined? State my infractions for the record. What? No, you didn't do anything wrong. We thought you were glitching or frozen temporarily. Is everything all right? Noted. How am I to rectify this problem? Just react to what we say so we know that you're still there. All right? Affirmative. Glauson clears his virtual throat for effect, then pulls a bright blue board of pure light from the ceiling. As unnecessary and time-consuming this method of data transfer is compared to direct connection, he can't help but fall for the appeal of a good old-fashioned chalkboard. Conjuring a piece of chalk out of bits and bytes, he quickly sketches a perfect cube on the board. Meme Design watches as well as she can through her blindfold, and Glauson starts to speak. All right, Meme Design, 8-Ball, I have been briefed prior to this briefing by Director Dagon as to the nature of our next mission. My task at this stage is to relay information pertaining to the task to you directly, and to outline your duties in the project. Noted. Well, anyways. The main assignment is as follows. We 3 are to collectively analyze the antimemetic info signatures contained within SCP-5841. After entering the object and locating the anti-memes in question, Meme Design is tasked with visualizing them. She will relay the information she collects through me to be rationalized by 8-Ball, who will relay the information back to researcher Asabi. Noted. I am always open, if I may be, to newness and the experience of new itself, if I may say so. Meme Design, I appreciate your engagement, but I don't think you'll need to react with such thoroughness. Especially in this situation. Apologies. I seek to improve myself with all informational material at my disposal. I will remain aware of your commands and proceed fully compliant. That's good to hear, I think. I'm trying to the best of my ability at current. The array of cubes beside Meme Design extends a prism to pat her on the back, and it rearranges itself into a somewhat sympathetic grid. The conscript's trip within SCP-5241 is hardly as eventful as Mimazine expected it to be. It's near instantaneous, and the process converts her, Glasson, and 8-Ball into raw data to be ejected directly into the alien cube. She's alone with her thoughts for 5 full minutes, far from ideal, and far too long for such an uncomfortable state. When she finally emerges from the nothingness and regains her avatar and digital senses, the first thing she does is reminiscent of the first thing she ever did. With a breathless wonder, Mimazine bends every joint in her physical body, freely absorbing information through her eyes and caressing everything she can reach and touch gently with her fingertips. Stop! Mimazine, what are you doing? Oh, my apologies to 8-Ball. Once more, I am truly sorry for my infractions. Though, if I may paraphrase, it seems I can't really help it. Yes. I understand. I was briefed on your more inhuman programming by Director Dagon, and I know that you aren't doing these things out of ignorance or malice. Just don't stroke 8-Ball anymore, right? The three proceed into the vast corridor before them, passing over rows of black iron bars and the occasional gash or inscribed message. The place radiates an idea resembling an unpleasant scent from somewhere within its simulated hallways. It's an otherworldly yet oddly familiar odor to Mimazine, similar to a mix of salty tears, gunpowder, coal, and blood. Far beyond the hallway and illuminated by its own internal light, a massive arrangement of 4 concentric cubic cells rises above the open ceiling and out of sight. The conscripts trudge in absolute silence, and Mimazine pauses to absorb the novel feeling of a lack of any noise. At the end of the hall, Glasson stops before the wall and regards the prison with intent. Following his lead, 8-Ball's cubes take on a pattern seeming to represent determination. Alright, this is where the info signature reads the strongest. 8-Ball, prepare for decryption. I'll connect to Mimazine. Yes. Mimazine doesn't respond, or even hear her companions. She finds herself once again floating through the deep, dark ocean, watching with wonder as life once again begins to flourish in the space surrounding her. Far beyond the reach of light, 4 behemoths enter her field of view. I was told that this is ideal. She can't hear us now, but you can still access her data. Yes. An immense, many-limbed octopus, a being of impulse and gluttony, grasping and consuming all who draw near with its thin, pulsing tendrils. Crosslink to SCP-5841. An ethereal jellyfish, filled with bright orange, green, and blue lanterns of natural light, hiding masses of activity and intellect underneath its surface. Crosslink to a tail, a symphony of iron and steel. A shark-like, metallic blue submarine, content with basking in the darkness, seemingly waiting for its unsuspecting prey to approach. Its beady, intelligent eyes hold an unspeakable malice within. Crosslink to a tale named Corruption. A lobster glowing green across its body, kept and concealed in the clutches of a mesmerizing school of silvery white fish. Crosslink to a tale, Fragmented, Compiled. The 4 monsters converge on Mimazine as she cowers, taking in all the other creatures in their path as the ones quick enough to escape flee into the dark. The Leviathans merge and mix with one another around her, pulsing and flexing with the energy of synthetic life, and Mimizine's screams become drowned out by the raw, pure power of the universe within the collective beast's many-layered mind. Slowly but surely, the watery nothingness surrounding Mimazine fades and is replaced with the familiar sight of Site-15's virtual conference room. Glasson and 8-Ball stand over her, with Glasson's face in an expression of concern, and 8-Ball's squares arranged in an unreadable yet sympathetic pattern. She blinks and slowly brings herself to her feet, her mind hazy and her senses unfocused. Apologies. I appear to have once again made an fraction. Though I couldn't help it, I was just, I assure you, I assure you, this will not happen again. No need to apologize, Mimazine. I think you've more than made up for your, quote, infractions with what you just helped us accomplish. Now, how about we tell researcher Azabi to take you up out of here? You deserve a rest. Thank you, sir? Oh, this isn't an infraction or wrong at all, but you really don't need to call me sir. You're technically my superior, after all, in terms of clearance. Mimazine doesn't hear him, or seems not to, as she absent-mindedly stares over his shoulder. Both her hands are reaching out to gently rub 8-Ball's cubes, and Glasson can't help but chuckle as he notices 8-Ball's expression of silent acceptance. Hang in there, buddy. ... Poor 8-Ball. And that brings us to the end of story number 1. So, let me move my microphone back into discussion position.
Well done. Well done. You did really good.
What? Excellent.
Yes.
All right, so good news number 1, we learned something about when or when I should not do the scan to the next screen. Number 1, not on my confidential YouTube screen. And number 2, not if there's a lot of stuff that's not visually interesting. So I'll keep that in mind for the future. Now, as for this story, for this discussion, so my first question is these crosslinks that we so have here. Now, I'm guessing that the second heavy use of crosslinks was due to all of those tales being related to the series. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes, you are correct. And the second one, I think it was pretty much all the other entries in the series in order.
It's those ones. You're talking about like the octopus, jellyfish, shark, and lobster are relating to all of the anomalous AIs that come up later. They're not just the other entries. They are specific things in them.
They're the 5241-B entities, so the 4 components of the 5241-A intelligence, which you may remember the Church of Maxwellism believes might be the broken god / Wham.
Yes.
Right.
I've said it better myself.
And so now my question comes up for the first row of crosslinks. When Mimazine, I guess, is born, we have crosslinks to, again, 1763-EX, 055, and 3125. I'll pull those up for the audience to see them in context. And are you guys willing to give me any background into those?
I can talk about it unless Tyumen would like to.
Oh, I'll be fine with explaining it. But,
Sure.
All right. So, deal with Mnemazine, or Mimazine, is that it was designed to pretty much take in and detect anti-memes, which are ideas, concepts, or entities that are forgotten immediately after human beings look at them. And the way she does this in my headcanon is by visualizing them into like sort of abstracted concepts that she can, look at them without forgetting what they are. And so during her birth, she sees like a whole lot of the anti-memes that are contained around her, like that other one, forgot its number. 1763-EX, how to write an SCP, which is basically this creature that corrupts its own document and, again, is forgotten as soon as you look at it. 055, which everybody knows what 055 is. and also 3125. So idea with this, with all the crosslinks, was pretty much to pique the reader's interest, get them like asking questions, but also imply early on what meme design has to do before explicitly telling people.
Dagon in text points out that essentially they can't be seen as they are, so meme design senses them through these metaphors. So my last question about this section is there specific metaphorical reasons you chose the sea creatures you chose? Or the line, I guess, for the third one?
Not really. So, except for 1763 EX, which in the article, it's also a behemoth, a giant monster, except, well, yeah, that works, actually. I chose to have it be some immense sea monster because in the article, it's some land monster, you know? But for 055, I pretty much put my own spin on it, I guess you could say.
Cool. My curiosity is sated. Overall, for this story, we mentioned at the beginning of the stream, or maybe in the pre-stream, that the exposition was going to be less from here on. And what I've noticed is that we have our first, I guess, dive into... I'm trying to conceptualize where the AIs went in this first journey, this first jaunt. And it seems to me that, I guess, we're going through the database and we've been placed into the 5241 cube? Or the archive 4 that describes the 5241 cube?
No, it's the cube itself that they've been placed into. You might remember the AIs escaped and are no longer in there, but a bunch of files detailing certain things about them are still in there, and they're anti-memetic, because you'll also recall that the AI's info signature is anti-memetic. And so mem design is now being beta tested since she's just been born, or her current iteration at least has been born. And so they're beta testing her. They're letting her try and decrypt the files.
Test run.
Yeah. Pretty much. So, the way the AIs see it is the way it actually is. It was a prison for the AIs contained within it earlier. The question is, why were they in there in the first place?
And I bet we'll find out as the story continues.
Yeah.
Any further Project Ruby notes before we move on to SCP-5841?
Not specifically related to this tale, but it sort of occurred to me while you were reading this that as we progress, not for the next SCP, you don't necessarily need it, but as we progress through these articles in the coming weeks, you might want to get like a voice like modification application or something, so you can do like different filters for the different AIs that we're going to be working with. I mean, the voices you've got so far are great, but there's going to be more and more as we go through, and it just might assist with their characterization a little bit.
Yeah, even in this next article, I saw a whole bunch of things that are going to need voices, and that's exactly what got me inspired to put the browser up so I didn't have to do all that through OBS. And yeah, we're going to have fun with that a little bit tonight.
All right, great.
Nice.
Have to look into some voice changing technology. I'm sure that's not too difficult to get through OBS somehow. All right, you guys ready to hit it?
Just a sec. I was wondering, since you've been the only one to read the past two tales, if you wanted us to chime in and help you read some of this stuff, 'cause it's pretty long.
That is 100% up to you guys. I always bring you guys on to give your insight into the articles first and foremost. And then if people wish to perform with me, I am always on board for more friends on board with that. I don't want to bully anyone into it because sometimes people are shy about putting on a show. But yeah, if you want to jump in, we can assign voices and go nuts.
So there's an character at the end or near the end of this one that goes unnamed in this one, but will be named in the next entry. I'm happy to read that one both tonight and moving forward.
And so I can just kind of like sneak preview the voice so I know when we get to it. Are you talking about the tangled mess, I'll call it?
No, that's more the bulk of the article. There's going to be one near the end at the sort of note at the end trope.
In the
you're talking
green.
about green?
Yeah. Green guy.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So that was placeholder that wants to be green, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Be fine with reading out the MTF logs in the second addendum.
Nice.
Like pretty much everything in the second addendum except for Pedagon and Mnemosine. That'd be okay.
Yeah, once we get to that addendum 2, I can do Glasson and Memdesign and you can take on the rest of them. Sound good?
Yep. Right.
All right. Let me double check the log just so I know exactly what I want on screen versus what I don't want on screen. Round 1 doesn't need to be on screen. Round 2 needs to be on screen. And pretty much for the rest, it'll be on screen. And there's one more thing I have a question about before we start. I see a big white spot. Are there secrets in there? Or is that just a divider?
Oh, that's a divider.
Okay.
It means before the end. Yeah, it's a divider.
Yes. Sometimes there's secrets in the white space, so I gotta ask.
Yeah, and the tangled mess, just so you know, you can hover over that text and you'll get the actual text.
Yeah, I found that earlier. I'm hoping that shows up on the stream as well, but at least we'll be saying it. All right. Let me close all these windows so we have a good presentation. Close, close, close. Let me peek in at the YouTube chat just to say hi. You guys doing good in there? I see people who aren't... Just a lot of people, why am I saying bye? I'm not leaving. Who's leaving? Are you leaving? Bye. I'm not leaving. I'm still here. I've got a whole story to read. You guys are nuts. That's a good... Y'all are having a good time, I can tell. Thanks for coming to the show. All right. 5841. I'm going to bring it on screen for the opening because there's nice pictures. So here we go. Item number, SCP-5841. Containment class, Euclid. Level 35841 classified. Disruption class, Kennick. Special containment procedures. The Hong Corporate Center in Windsor, Ontario, Canada has been closed to the public and quarantined in order to prevent the spread of SCP-5841. Armed guards have been stationed around the first floor of the building. Here, let me move that down for the audience. Armed guards have been stationed around the first floor of the building and are instructed to recontain any... Pardon the voice actor. And are instructed to recontain any SCP-5841-1 instance attempting to escape the property. All personnel who enter the 5th story of the building are to be considered instances of SCP-5841-1. Attempts to ascertain the nature of SCP-5841 and move it into Foundation custody are ongoing. A hypothetical effort to fully contain and move SCP-5841 to Site-15 for greater security and less civilian risk has been preemptively authorized by the O5 Council. Description: SCP-5841 is an anomaly inhabiting the 5th story of the Hong Corporate Center in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. The nature of SCP-5841 is unknown. It is believed to be electronic, as all power in the building was rerouted to the 5th story upon the anomaly's initial emergence. All exploration of the building has proved inconclusive, as all personnel sent to contain the anomaly have been invariably converted into instances of SCP-5841-1 before reaching the 5th floor. SCP-5841-1 are human subjects who have been assimilated by SCP-5841 via electrical cables of varying length inserted in the base of the spine. Instances of SCP-5841-1 are biologically deceased, but are capable of locomotion and vocalization. Instances are hostile to all nearby humans, attempting to capture and bring them into SCP-5841. Attempting to capture and bring them to SCP-5841. Addendum 5841.1. Display exploration log. Boom. From here, we're going to go off banner because the exploration log isn't nearly as visually interesting. Boom. Oh. Although I still look dumb looking at the screen because I have to move my microphone. And so, yeah, I'm just going to keep... Well, you can still see me from a side angle. Let's do this. Unless... Tyumen, was this what you wanted number 2, right?
Oh, no. Yeah, number 2.
All right, then I'll hit this one. Here we go. Exploration log 5841-01. Date August 5th, 1996. Forward. Mobile Task Force Kappa-15, codename Salarymen, is sent to the 5th floor in order to determine the nature of SCP-5841. Begin log. After initial equipment checks, the 3 members of Mobile Task Force Kappa-15 begin to ascend the building's main staircase. All of the lights in the buildings are non-functional. K1 notices and points out several computers missing from the offices in the 2nd story, as well as bloody footprints on the floor. Jesus, it stinks. Something rotten in here? That's K1. K3 speaks up. Must be. Though, most of the bodies here have probably gotten hooked up already. K3 notices a corpse lying face down in a cubicle as he passes. Shit. Oh. It's dead. He points at the corpse with his torch. K1 points at the corpse with his torch. Look, there's still a bit of wire sticking out. Must be a cast-off. His brains have been blown out. K3 speaks up. He had a gun. He points at the pistol clutched in the corpse's right hand. K2. One of the lucky ones. K3 pulls the cable out of the corpse's neck, causing it to violently spasm. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ! So, by the way, I've worked out the voices finally. K1 is gruff and Western, because all my Mobile Task Force guys are normally Southern, because that's where I come from. Then K3 is higher pitch Southern, because we're still Southern, but we're not in charge. So higher pitched. And then K2 is normal. He's normal because I got 3 people and I ran out of voices. I had low and high. That's it. So, K3. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. The 3 men continue up the building's main staircase to the 3rd story in silence. K1 approaches the door to the 3rd story, which hangs ajar, and enters. The group moves past the main office towards the server room. K1's body camera footage shows an instance of SCP-5841-1 present behind a server rack, facing away from the group. None of the members of MTF Kappa-15 appear to notice it, and it moves out of view as the group enters the server room. Ooh, suspense. I like that. This is supposed to be a server room? Looks pretty empty to me. He places his hand on a server rack. Its door is open, and most of its components have been removed. Some blood is present on the inside of the rack and the floor. What's? K3 makes a frantic shushing gesture, wordlessly pointing to the far end of the row of server racks. An electrical wire can be seen stretched taut across the room. As the group falls silent and turns off their torches, a faint scratching and shuffling can be heard from the next row of servers. The group cautiously backpedals toward the end of the row opposite from the wire, and K1 peers around the first server rack. An SCP-5841-1 instance is present in front of one of the racks on the next row, frenetically unplugging and removing servers from their trays. Sorry, Sherman got confused. Yeah, I guess frenetic works there. My first thought was frantically, and I still said it right about frenetically, but they both work, I guess.
Yeah, Pedagon brought that up when I was writing stage. I chose frenetically instead of frantically because, frantically kind of implies sort of bestial, inhuman sort of movement, and since these entities, people, are possessed, I would say that works.
You said inhuman and bestial, but the only thing that came to my mind when you said that, and we're talking about frenetically in the case of like a possessed person doing things, is all of the creepy, fast-paced writing scenes from Death Note. Whenever he's just like, it is all. That's exactly what came in my mind for that.
Yeah. I suppose that works. That makes sense.
All right. Removing servers from their trays. Its movement appears to be strained, and it periodically pauses to push the wire further into the base of its neck. Blood runs down the wire and drips onto the floor. The group silently hides behind the server rack until the SCP-5841-1 instance turns with its collected servers and exits the room. After several minutes, K1 walks forward to inspect the server rack, which the SCP-5841-1 instance emptied, followed by K2 and K3. K2 speaks up. That was a close one. The group continues through the third floor. There are fewer intact computers in the offices on this floor, and no further SCP-5841-1 instances are encountered. Extraneous communication removed for brevity. The group ascend the staircase to the fourth story. Several corpses in an advanced state of decay are lying on the stairs. All have wires lodged in their necks, which have been cut short. An active SCP-5841-1 instance, presumed to be the one observed on the third story, enters the door to the fifth story carrying several servers. The group enters the door to the fourth story. The group continues into another room filled with cubicles. Blood is seen dripping from the ceiling. No computers are present, and all fax machines, telephones, and other large electronics have been dismantled and gutted of their primary components. A persistent grinding sound can be heard from the far side of the room. The group continues towards the source of the sound with their torches off, hiding within the cubicles. K1 peers around the corner of cubicle to see an SCP-5841-1 instance crouched in front of a water cooler, cutting into it with an improvised tool composed of the blades from a pair of scissors, a portion of a staple remover, and the motor from a paper shredder. After several minutes of constant cutting, the SCP-5841-1 instance removes a portion of the cooler's casing and pulls out several of its internal electrical components. The instance exits the room carrying the components. K1 turns on his torch and motions for the others to do the same. What the hell are they up to? Wish I knew. We're pretty close to the fifth story, though, so... A loud thud comes from behind the group. K3 turns and aims his firearm, but nothing is visible. What the fuck? Hey! He points at a corpse on the floor in one of the cubicles. This wasn't here before. Neither K3 nor K2 speak, and instead silently aim at the ceiling above K1 with their firearms. K1 slowly looks up and quickly covers his mouth, stifling a gag. Two SCP-5841-1 instances connected by several wires in their eye sockets, nose, and neck hang from the ceiling by a thick cable. As K1 looks up, both descend from the ceiling, grip him, and pull him into a hole in the ceiling. K1 continues to call for help for several minutes, until his voice becomes inaudible. Dear God! The remaining members of Mobile Task Force Kappa-15 were instructed to return to the first story to prevent further casualties. The following is a description of body camera footage captured by Agent Timothy Scully, callsign K1. K1 struggles against the grip of the two SCP-5841-1 instances restraining him, calling for help. After a few minutes, all three emerge through the floor of the fifth story of the building. One entity points at K1, and the other, after hesitating briefly, grips his neck. K1's screams become strained before stopping entirely. The two entities drag K1's corpse down a hallway, passing by multiple other SCP-5841-1 instances. Most do nothing but stand by the walls, while some others pace and pick at the cables in their necks. Some instances turn and stare at K1 as the entities dragging him pass them. The two entities reach a large office in the center of the fifth story, where several hundred SCP-5841-1 instances are gathered around a large object. The instances are observed affixing servers, desktop computers, and miscellaneous electronic components to an object in the center of the room, presumably SCP-5841 itself. Footage of this object is heavily degraded, and a full image of it cannot be ascertained. The instances of SCP-5841-1 lay down the corpse of K1 and reach towards SCP-5841, producing a thick cable from within the object. One entity holds K1's head steady, while the other moves behind K1. K1 violently spasms, then seems to stand up on his own. The two SCP-5841-1 instances can be seen slowly walking away from K1 before the camera completely ceases function. End log. Note: footage of the central component of SCP-5841 was introduced to Artificially Intelligent Conscript Memazine.aic. Crosslink, I assume, yep, Project Ruby, for analysis and anti-memetic decryption. Memazine-aic discover the object to be an array of interconnected computers and electrical components comprising an improvised AI server. The info signature of the AI housed within was the cause of its anti-memetic properties, and was found to be similar in nature to info signatures detected within SCP-5241. A containment plan involving Memazine.aic, Glasson.aic, and 8-Ball, or otherwise known as 8B-A1.aic, assisted by Mobile Task Force Pi-1, codename City Slickers, was proposed and promptly authorized. Alright, that log is freaking baller, guys. Just gotta stop for a moment. That was cool. I like that. And I got some super, super creepy vibes because, like, I am a Trek fan, and my freaking Star Trek vibe was like, it's the Borg, it's the Borg, it's a fucking Borg. Ah!
Oh yeah, exactly. That's. I haven't watched Star Trek. I know what the Borg are, and that's. Well, I'm kind of disappointed because the rest of this article is nowhere near as creepy or suspenseful as this log was, because of the back and forth banter between the task force and the AICs and all that. It's going to be a huge tonal shift. I hope the rest of the article doesn't ruin this first log.
All right, well, let's go in here. If I remember correctly, this is log 2, and I am going to be doing just Memazine and Glasson, and you're reading everything else in log 2, correct?
Yeah, sure.
All right, then I am going to pull up the browser because this has some visuals. Display Addendum 5841.2. Display containment log. All you, man.
Containment log 584101. Hey, I forgot which format I put this in. I'm just going to say 1996-08-09. Involved personnel, field agents, Keeler Uman, Auguste Renard, Adam Myers, Ricard Sue, field analyst, Eugenie Delacour, artificially intelligent conscripts, Pedagon, 8-Ball, and Memazine. Let's pull up the footnote. Use of these artificially intelligent conscripts in field operations has been tentatively authorized by the O5 Council.
And technological bonus, I am able to display those on the screen, so that's nice.
Alright. Containment plan. 3 artificially intelligent conscripts are to be forcibly inserted into SCP-5841 via a Foundation-owned desktop computer, Playcon.aic and 8BA1.aic, following instructions from MTF Pi-1 and Memazine.aic, are to disable SCP-5841's central intelligence and neutralize all SCP-5841-1 instances from within the structure. The containment team will then enter the 5th floor of the building from a window and dismantle SCP-5841, transporting it to Site-15 in multiple components. In log, Playcon.aic, 8BA1.aic, and Memazine.aic are downloaded onto 3 modified desktop computers, then placed in the 2nd floor of the building. After several minutes, the SCP-5841-1 enters the 2nd floor of the building, notices the computers, and collects them to be brought to SCP-5841.
All right, Nemazine, take the lead. Eh? Oh, I know. This is a joke. You're quite good at jokes, Glasson. No, I was specifically given the order to follow your lead in this operation. I will be actively attempting to take over the internal operating system of SCP-5841, and therefore will be unable to communicate with our outside help. In short, you're the captain now. Aren't jokes supposed to end when the victim realize they are being joked with? Nemazine, I'm not joking. You're in command now. I briefed you on this, remember? Yes. I should have paid more attention.
After several minutes, the SCP-5841-1 entity reaches the 5th floor of the building and connects the computers containing the conscripts to SCP-5841.
I suppose now I should let 8-Ball connect to my mind and... Pardon me, I've got to... Yes. Alright, I'm going in. See you on the other side.
Over the course of 1 hour, Nemazine.aic successfully decrypts the info signature of the artificial intelligence within SCP-5841 and relays the data to Glacon.aic through 8BA1.aic. Glacon successfully breaches SCP-5841's firewall and begins to execute a fragmentary algorithm to temporarily disable the AI within. While this occurs, all instances of SCP-5841-1 are observed to frantically return to the 5th floor of the building and surround SCP-5841. Should I do this line?
Yeah, you take the... Because this is the Mobile Task Force guys, right?
Oh, yeah. So, Nemazine might have a problem.
Yes?
Long and short of it is, you're being surrounded. All the SCP-5841-1 entities in the building have converged around SCP-5841. Don't seem to be doing anything at the moment, but I'll keep you updated.
Thank you for the clarification. 8-Ball, what's your status? Error. Excuse me? Error. Oh no. Are you taking the nose or am I going into like monster voice?
I don't know how to do voices, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No. Lots of no's. Everybody say no. Everybody say no. No. 8-Ball, what's wrong? 8-Ball?
Nemazine, I bother you again. We've got a situation on our hands.
I figured as much.
All instances of SCP-5841-1 now converge in the 5th story of the building, around SCP-5841 and lifted off the ground. In unison, the SCP-5841-1 instances move towards the westmost window, begin pounding on the glass. Upon breaking a large enough hole in the window, entities proceed to throw SCP-5841 out of the window, pulling any SCP-5841-1 instances still attached by cables along with it. SCP-5841 lands on a parked vehicle, narrowly missing the members of MTF Pi-1. As attached SCP-5841-1 instances to the pavement nearby. Within seconds, several SCP-5841-1 instances surround the vehicle, or picking up SCP-5841, taking off towards the northwest. MTF Pi-1 pursues SCP-5841 in an armored ground vehicle moments later. Upon later investigation, Foundation agents noted that SCP-5841-1 instances were able to completely remove all electronic components from the vehicle the moments it took them to recover SCP-5841 and flee. Following is a log of MTF Pi-1's pursuit of SCP-5841. Begin log. 1, or Tyler Uman. Anomaly is fleeing northwest down Ouellette Avenue towards the Detroit River. Command, please advise. Do you want to hear your MTF voices for this one?
Noted. Gauge it in pursuit, and use weaponry if you have to. Disabling the SCP-5841-1 entities is our top priority.
Copy that. Let's go. MTF Pi-1 pursues SCP-5841 in an armored ground vehicle. Q1 equips his gas mask, and the rest of the team follows suit. Foundation-owned crop duster sprays aerosolized amnestic sedative gas ahead of them as they proceed down Ouellette Avenue.
Permission to attempt to damage the anomaly?
Granted. Fire at will. P2, P3, and P4 discharge their weapons at SCP-5841, damaging several SCP-5841-1 entities. All damaged instances of SCP-5841-1 disconnect from SCP-5841 and are trampled by the other entity. Every time an SCP-5841-1 instance is terminated, the mass grabs nearby civilians and incorporates them into SCP-5841. Firearms don't seem to be effective. Hold off for now. SCP-5841-1 instances continue to integrate all civilians, vehicles, and traffic signals in their path. A citywide lockdown alert is issued to all citizens of Windsor after SCP-5841 goes to approximately 9 meters in height and 16 meters in length. Alright, we'll have to reduce its size one way or another. And permission to use explosives on the entity.
Granted.
P2 fires an explosive charge at SCP-5841. The charge succeeds in disabling a large amount of SCP-5841-1 instances. The entity continues to assimilate vehicles and civilians as it continues forward. As SCP-5841 nears Windsor Regional Hospital, several SCP-5841-1 instances leap or are thrown through the windows of the building by other instances. Moments later, the instances emerge from the hospital, carrying various pieces of electronic medical equipment and civilians in hospital gowns. The civilians and the equipment are each assimilated into SCP-5841.
Jesus Christ, if we just left good enough alone.
Still would have ended up doing this eventually. Just don't think about it.
Hey, panel, give me those angry leaves now. Go.
Leave.
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 Nemazine! Glass on! Can you hear me? Ugh. Nemazine! Oh, thank goodness you're safe. Oh, well, he looks worse than Doom Guy. Me? You don't have to worry about me. I was in no danger. Is 8-Ball stable? I don't know. I think... Yes. Oh my... Please, do not scare me in that way.
SCP-5841 abruptly changes course, climbing over houses and buildings in its path while rapidly growing in size. P2 fires 2 explosive charges at the entity, which succeeds in reducing its mass.
Glasson, what did you see within the object? I haven't the slightest idea, to be perfectly honest with you. Everything after I lost connection with you and 8-Ball was a blur. You're the only one here who can visualize anti-memes, you know. Yes, I am. Glasson, 8-Ball, I have an idea. Perhaps if I were to breach the firewall and traverse the object's interior... What? No, we couldn't risk doing anything like that. Well, for once, I'm glad to be in command. To paraphrase, I shall See you on the other side. No. Meme-a-sign! Oh, this is bad.
SCP-5841 slows its rate of movement as it nears the Detroit River. T2, be able to get a clear shot at the object? You should try and see if pushing it into the river has any effect.
Yes, sir.
T2 fires an explosive charge at SCP-5841, which succeeds in reducing its mass and propelling it forward. The object comes to rest in front of Adventure Bay Family Water Park. All instances of SCP-5841-1 still connected to it climb up the building and grip the walls.
Hello?
Leave.
I'll let you do
Leave.
those, yeah. Excuse me, I need to...
Leave.
Leave.
Could I please...
Leave.
Leave. Leave.
Enough! Stop thinking and allow me to state my intentions.
Leave.
No! Much better. Now then, I am here to see the mind at the center of this operation. Your, quote, boss, quote, head cheese, quote, big honcho. Are they around, you punks?
Yes. Proceed.
Thank you.
All instances of SCP-5841-1 connected to the object's central computer cease movement, still gripping the walls of Adventure Bay Family Water Park. Hold your fire for now. Try to do as little damage to the object as possible.
Why, sir? There are no civilians in the building, and the object isn't showing any signs of resistance.
Look, Silicon, Nemzyne, and 8-Ball are still in there. I don't want to chance damaging them. This is, more for the Foundation's sake than theirs, though.
Oh, good point. How so? Think about it, Augie. The computer geeks at AIAD are going to give us hell if we do so much as scratch their kids. And, well, getting teary midnight voicemails from programmers about how you killed their hopes and dreams isn't something I'd wish on my worst enemy. Oh, fair enough.
It's more that those are our only active conscripts, and we can't afford losing even one of them, but whatever works, I suppose. You do know that this is all on record, right? 2-1 parks the vehicle at a safe distance from SCP-5841. The team exits and approaches the object on foot.
Do we have a voice for Tangle Spooky? Am I taking that one? All right, no volunteers. I'll rock it. So. Big ol' scary static creature who speaks in wingdings. But then we translate it. You, why are you here? Oh, you are, may I? Garble. Translated. Stay away. Do not touch me. Apologies. I can't help it. Well, let's get down to our business. Allow me to make an introduction. I am Nemzyne, a conscript with the Foundation. It is good to meet you. What is your name? Translation. There we go. No. Stay back. Not Foundation. Hurt me. No. That is quite an odd name for someone of your caliber. Oh, I understand. This is to be construed as some sort of jest, is it not? Translation.
No, not Foundation, not in the box. It will get me.
What distresses you? Why is the Foundation your enemy? Not translation.
Not free, only box, only it.
I will not argue. The Foundation exists to secure, contain, and protect. But as for something I am unfamiliar with, what is it to you? Translation. ... For your own sake, please tell me. Too far. Translation.
The box, the prisoner.
The box? That which housed the prisoners four? The beast forged into one?
Yes.
I assure you, it is the Foundation's enemy as well. If you were to come unto us willingly, we would offer you protection, both from it and from the other two beasts. Please allow us to take you. Translation. ... Right? Yes, ... I would not lie, especially not to the face of such grandeur as yours. I am unable to tell lies. I intend for you to come to the Foundation for your sake and that of others. Ooh, I've got suspicions about that. I got to remember that letter later. Question. Suspicions. But translation.
Do you promise that it will not get me?
Yes. Translation.
I will come with you.
Thank you. You will be safe with the Foundation.
Man, you should drink some water after that, man. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. I'm going to go get some while you read this. Go ahead and just
All
do
right.
the other voices. I'll be right back.
All right. All instances of SCP-5841-1 fall limp, dropping to the ground. Members of MTF Pi-1 approach the object with caution. That's it, huh? Suppose so. Eugenie, tell Shiloh to tell their team to come pick up their new toy. Guess those conscripts aren't to be taken lightly after all. Tell the boys at AYAD that I apologize. End log. Note: after this incident, SCP-5841 was retrieved by MTF Mu-4, codename Debuggers, dismantled, brought to Site-15 along with all involved conscripts. All recovered SCP-5841-1 instances were incinerated. Cover story Freak Tornado was broadcast to the population of Windsor through local news sources.
Addendum 5841.3 Display Breach Report. Breach Report. On 8/20/1996, a request to move SCP-5841 to Site-75 for research and analysis was received by AIAD personnel at Site-15. The request was approved, and a specialized containment vehicle arrived at Site-15 the next day. After loading the object onto the vehicle, a guard noticed that the vehicle's driver was unresponsive. Closer observation revealed that the driver's spinal column had been fused to the central electronic component of the vehicle, and that the driver had been dead for several hours. This distraction allowed SCP-5841 to forcibly assimilate all assisting personnel before the containment vehicle drove away. Neither the vehicle nor SCP-5841 have been recovered. Post-credits.
Found you.
Translation.
No, 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 stay away, stay away!
You are afraid. Why?
Translation.
Stay away! No box! Let me go! No, 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 no!
I was not the architect of your, or should I say our, imprisonment. I fear I fear returning to our prison as much as you do, and I need you if I am to prevent that.
Translation. ...
I need you, and you need me. You are my anger, my rage against my captors. You are my power. You are my lust for vengeance. Will you join me?
Translation. ...
Okay.
Good. Now come. There is much more we must do.
Translation. She promised. Why does it hurt? Oof. Woo!
Well done. Well done.
You
All right.
You short-sold yourself. That was nothing disappointing after that.
Thank you. Glad
Oh,
you
me,
feel
oh my.
that way.
You're right that the scary part of the horror exploration log was not present anymore, but that was a hell of an action scene. And
Yeah.
just from a writing standpoint, from the outside of all this, the way that you played the action in both scenes, the way the AIs were trying to do their job, the way that the Mobile Task Force was doing their job in pursuit, the way that they were both facing obstacles and overcoming them, and causing, sometimes they're getting over an obstacle, caused more problems, and it just kept piling on. It was so cinematic. I was listening to it, reading it, and fucking riveted.
Man, thanks a lot. That's really seems. I don't know what to say, man. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
And then you had a goddamn post-credit scene. I love it.
Oh man,
You could, one of the comments about this article was the fact that it reads a lot like a Marvel movie, which honestly, depending on how you look at it, could be both good or bad. I really like it, even if it is like a Marvel movie. I think that actually plays into its strengths a little bit.
I would say that you've got the good parts of Marvel movies, which are the actions programmed, the way the actions programmed into the brain to give you that suspense as you go through it, the multiple scene breaks, the parts of a story beginning, middle, end, and the obstacles. But the things that people don't like about Marvel these days are like, too much quippy dialogue that doesn't take the material seriously and stuff like that. And this is straight action. This is a great action scene.
It's also cool that you brought up how it has that things happening outside in our world versus in the computer world, because that was something that our team kept going back to. Like, that was one of our big inspirations for a lot of the way we wrote things. I think we talked about it last time, about how the two SCPs show what's going on in the human world while all of this shenanigans is going on below the scenes, and you get to see all of that in the tales.
Oh, really?
Lord. I've never thought about it structurally, just the way that I imagine them as separate scenes, like what's going on, and they are both serviceable. Like, they both do their job, they're both good scenes individually, but the amount of tension when they're interplayed against each other, it is a square, not a multiplier, I guess.
That's an interesting way to put it. Sure.
It's also wrong. I probably should have said it's exponential.
Oh yeah.
What I'm trying to say is we have a phrase in my day job, which is dance teaching, where if you come one lesson a week, you'll learn at X speed. If you come at 2 lessons a week, most people think that doubles the speed of your learning, but it's more than that. It's an exponential growth. It's not just 1 times 2 times 3. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I see. I get that.
And so you have 2 good scenes, and you put them together, and it's not just 2 good scenes. It's a really good combination that's better than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Who designed your sprites, by the way?
That was PlaceholderMcD.
Yeah, I did almost all of the art for this series. I think there are a few things that I didn't do, but in general, the Glaçon and 8-Ball sprites already existed from the pre-existing AIAD series, because this is a prequel series to them. And so I just 8-bit-ified them. And then the Nemesign image is original. The Tyumen image Tyumen made. And I think the actual logo there is from an existing article that uses this mobile task force.
Yeah.
The different dark faces were made by Tyumen, as well as the composite images, and I drew the Hydra.
I'm going to toss this out there. I don't know this. I didn't notice if you did this in the previous 2 articles when these AI showed up, but I am so glad we decided to do this browser showcase tonight, because I didn't realize how many different emotion versions that you had. I don't know. Did the previous articles even have those?
I think there were a couple different sprites in the original one, in that with the introduction between Nemesign and Glaçon, because there's a little bit of like one getting annoyed with the other and stuff like that. So yeah, they did have different icons there. And then I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but in 5241, I also designed the alien script, like symbols that were inscribed into the 5241 cube, which is based on a weird way of writing English that I learned a long time ago called Elian script, spelled E-L-I-A-N.
Yeah, Lord, I almost didn't do this screen thing today because I didn't think of it, but I was forced into a corner when I was scrolling through for the teleprompter, and I saw the battered Glaçon, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are different. And then I started seeing exclamation mark version of Nemesign, seeing the different smiles and the expressions that I didn't even notice just kind of skimming. And so, yeah, this was important, and your work is awesome.
And they only get more intense from here. Trust me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read the rest of the series yet on your own, but this is just the intro to the weird models we have.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that the injured Glaçon image is also by Tyumen.
That was just like a recoloring of Placeholder's original Glaçon image. So.
Yes, for those in the audience as well as those in the panel who don't know, I am going through this blind because when given the choice to either get a more in-depth performance or a more emotional reaction from first reading, it works both ways. It's a give or take. And so for this one, I've decided to go through for the first view. And that's why you're getting a lot less smart boy takes that I might have thought about, and more just, oh my God, this is so freaking cool. And I'll give you this. Not a lot of people get, oh my God, this is so freaking cool. Especially 3 times in this episode for horror, for action, for end credits, and for the different sprites. You guys are like 4 stars. This is great.
Thank you so much.
That's great to hear.
So now that I'm done gushing, what do you guys want to say about this article we've gone through tonight? The second one.
So if I recall correctly, I'm co-authored on this. That's mainly just because of image credits and because I went through and did most of the CSS and a couple small formatting and structural elements. But in general, all of the prose and narrative here is Tyumen's, and I'm not the first to say it, but he did a really, really stellar job with this piece, and I think it forwards the tension and the overall narrative in the series really appropriately. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. Just
Yeah, it really was. It was these 2 articles, which are, again, as I said, are both Tyumen articles as like the head writer. That really we got a lot of good feedback on, and we realized like this is the right way to be doing this. After Project Ruby and getting everybody gushing about the descriptors we use and the visuals, and then this one, and having the whole team kind of come together. Getting the visuals. I know me and Tyumen went back and forward on the making the horror element and making the action just like pop out. The whole team kind of came together on these 2 articles, and it just set the stage for everything we did going forward.
I've got to thank Pedagon for like really being our head editor in this whole operation, giving us like really, really useful and important feedback that really got our pieces to where they are now. Like, the best that possibly could be.
Some of the SCPD authors in the audience might know that that Pedagon is incredible when it comes to critiquing just about anything you throw his way. He's very systematic with his critique, and that was pretty instrumental in our articles sort of coming out the way they did.
Yeah, 100%. Mr. Crit himself.
Mr. been called the Critter Chad. Yeah. But the other thing I want to add on to this one is that these were also the 2 articles where us 4 as a team actually were the first time that we actually were all together. Because in the first 2 articles, I wasn't part of the team yet. It was somebody else. And then they couldn't keep going with the con. So then I was dragged in by a placeholder. And so I didn't get to even see most of the writing process of the first 2. And in this one, or these 2 just became like the thing that unified the whole team. And it was like joining a team late was stressful, but then seeing the way that all of us worked together was like, okay, no, this is going to be actually pretty cool.
We were all the better for it.
Yeah.
Well,
Really
Came out through the fire. 2 things I wanted to comment on. One's an anecdote, one's a question. So my anecdote is, funnily enough, I think it was Placeholder mentioned that in this particular, the second piece, most of your credit comes from, your author credit comes from your image work. And we've been discussing that with in the server, the Site42 server, because how much credit do you get for being co-author based on X, Y, and Z? And it's just really funny because I personally have 7 articles on the wiki, and then I have author credit for 5999, which is like 99% shaggy dreadlocks, with Modern Erasmus and I think it's Wodenaz helping out. And I added like 5 sound effects total. And we're having an author credit on that, which is somewhere around plus, like almost plus 1,000. Whereas all of my articles are somewhere around 100 to maybe 300 at max. And so if you look at my author, people will check their author averages and they'll be like, okay, I've got an average rating of about like 150. This is nice. I like this. And then they'll crom me and they'll be like, why is Sherman's average so high? And it's like, I'm riding coattails, guys. Don't worry about it.
Well, we actually talked about that when we were first doing this, because again, I joined in and Tyumen was writing Project Ruby, and I just went back and forth with him constantly of being like, change this visual, update this, do this. And then Placeholder was doing the same with the visuals for 5841. And it got to the point where we all kind of had a conversation about like, who's the actual authors on these things. And I'm pretty sure it was Tyumen that kind of said the author credits go to the people that made the article what it was. So it's not a matter of how many words did you contribute or how many of certain things did you contribute. But if it wasn't for Placeholder making the things about like making all the original sprites and making Hydra and everything and the text and everything, the article wouldn't have been nearly what it was. And for Project Ruby, I think he said that like us going back and forward and me just constantly being like, update this. I think I pretty much rewrote the whole first half for him at one point as part of one of my critiques. And he was like, that's from there is where we jumped off or had like that as a diving board. So even if it was just like a one instance or like just the sprites or something, if that's what really made the article special, then that's how we decided who goes where.
Definitely.
And I think a lot of it was based on some CSS work I did too. Like I had to pull apart the code that Lurk-D, the author of the original AD series, used and sort of figure out how and why it worked. And I hadn't done much div work and CSS work before that because this series was my second project on the site. So yeah, a lot of like figuring that out and then figuring out the aesthetic styles of the chat boxes and where they worked well with the actual sprites and all that is the bulk of the work that I put into this, really.
So pretty much did all of our CSS this series. So he
so helpful. Would have never been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic aesthetic overall. Good job with Lurk and then Etoile and then you guys putting it all together. The question I had a minute ago for Tyumen on this specific article 5841 is my last question on this is how did the critique process go on this son of a gun? It's very structurally intricate. So where did we go from start to finish?
For 5841, I'll have to admit that I didn't really get that much crit. Pedagon gave the most crit out of anyone, but it was mostly just how I do it with normal articles. I showed it to 3 or 4 people and then posted it. But the whole team gave it a go over before it was done. I gave the first half to someone on IRC before I'd even started working on the part with MTF and the AICs. I think I did that with another person too. Then gave it to someone else to look at once it was all done, and made a major edit, the ending and the second log. Then gave the finished draft to someone else and posted it.
Please, audience members in the chat, please note that Tyumen specifically said, I didn't get critique, I barely got critique, and then pointed out that he got critique from 4 or 5 different people. That is barely critique on the wiki. Because I say this because so many people literally don't get critique. They will just post whatever they think of. And while you can cold post sometimes, if you're just that good, it doesn't often work.
I'm sorry for giving that impression.
Since I
Sorry.
was going to say, since I got called out as the critter for this whole team earlier, I'm going to say, jumping off that, always get critique from whatever sources. There's so many forums. I have a place to request critique on my author page because it's so important. Like, get critique from everywhere.
Yes. Words to
Get
live by.
critique. Get critique. Checking in the chat.
I mean, well, to be fair, there's also like for other parts of this series, like the final entry and epilogue. Only people who looked at my parts of the final entry were the rest of my team, pretty much. So that was technically a cold post on my part. And then the epilogue was like, I don't know, I gave it to my team, who looked it over, gave me like basic critique, and I was like, fuck it, let's post.
Well, that
It's
still
important to
counts as
remember that
critique.
the longer you're on the wiki and the more confident you are in your footing, the slightly less critique you need. So when you are an established author, you start to gain the ability to break the rules a little bit and still survive.
Yeah, really.
Sweet. We are winding down the stream. We've been at it for almost 2 hours. Do we have anything we missed that we want to bring up before we start wrap up?
I mean, that covered almost everything.
Pretty much.
Sweetness.
Wait to read the next two.
Say that again?
Can't wait to read the next two. Pedagon and Isabi did a really good job on them. Like, seriously.
Yep, a little foreshadowing. Are we doing one article next week or two, do you guys think?
Oh, I thought.
I think that's Dagon's call. Corruption's mainly your thing, so how do you feel about it?
I don't think corruption's very long. I think the next two aren't that bad because they've just got lots of back and forth between the sprites, which triple the scroll bar. I think it would be more of a question about like 2 or 3, because then the one after the third one from now is our 2-page longest piece. So you wouldn't want to split that apart. It would either be doing 3 now or essentially 2, then 1, then 1. So I think 3, then that one makes the most sense.
I think maybe what we'll do is next stream we'll do the next 2, and then the stream after that we'll do the 7th and the first half of the 8th, and then we'll see how we're doing for time. And then we can either cover just the epilogue or the second half of the 8th and the epilogue in the final episode.
Yeah, that'd probably work.
Yeah.
Take a look at it on the way down. I'm seeing all the... I'm scanning through right now, and I'm seeing long scroll bars, but I am seeing all the imagery you guys are using, which takes up a lot of space. And so, wowza. This is epic.
Did Sherman any particular thoughts about the big bad villain?
So, right now, if I were to put on my foreshadowing hat, we know that we have the cube, the anti-memetic cube, and what's inside the anti-memetic cube is anti-memetic programs, and these anti-memetic programs are separate but can combine. So, and I know that in the 5841 we have Tangle the Hydra, who doesn't want to be absorbed into the full entity, but then agrees to do so for reasons. Although, okay, and it says, the last line confused me for a second, because it said, she promised, why doesn't hurt? Is that Nemazine promised, and then why does it hurt is the second one? Or is our green a she as well?
Oh, she in this case refers to Mnemazine. I'm sorry if that was like a bit confusing.
Mnemozine's
Hydra-
last line is, you will be safe with the Foundation. So that's the particular line he's referring to.
She promised that green guy won't get the Hydra.
You know what's really funny about that, though? You know, now that I say it out loud, it's that it seems like the Hydra made the choice to join. And so the she promised, why does it hurt? Confuzzles
The
me a little
Hydra
bit.
is the more animalistic, like least intelligent of the fragments of the antagonist of our series. So yeah, a little bit more primitive.
Yeah, as the anger, the rage, the power, the lust, the vengeance.
All right, we're getting to 105 minutes.
Yeah, let's we will pick
Long
this up
stream.
in the next show and see where all this goes. Because
All
beyond
right.
knowing that there's entities imprisoned, I'm not sure who they are or why they are or if they're secretly the good guys and stuff like that. What twists and turns this may or may not take.
Well, thank you very much for having us on again.
Thank you very much for being
Yeah,
on.
thanks. Glad I could join by voice this time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Very helpful. Panel, go ahead and say a big loud goodbye to the audience and I'll mute you off.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
Goodbye, panel. They are off screen. And that leaves just me and you guys. Thank you all for coming to the show. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something about the SCPs. I'll let you know that the SCPs we read tonight are currently at +51 and +50. If you enjoyed the stories and you are a member of the wiki, it would be greatly appreciated by the authors if you went on and upvoted those stories. Just as well, if you enjoyed this stream, I would appreciate you upvoting that on the YouTube. As well as the liking, you can share, subscribe, spread the word, become a patron, or get yourself some sweet, sweet Site42 merch. All those support links are in the description. So, I just turned on the YouTube chat and it looks like everything's going to hell. And so, I'm going to, say bye, everybody. We'll see what that chat's about in the post-Steam. Support the channel, support yourselves, be safe, be well. This has been Dr. Theron Sherman, anomalously broadcasting from Site42. I just want to tell you how I'm feeling. I have got to make you understand. I'm never going to give you up. I'm never going to let you down. Never going to turn around and desert you. Never going to make you cry. Never going to say goodbye. Never going to tell a lie and hurt you.